based in London right now, but I haven't always lived in London. I've actually lived in the United States for many years, but before that, I was actually born right here in India, in a small village outside of Bangalore called Hartikote. That's me, the little guy on the right over here, and one of the very few documented pictures of me back when very few people in villages had cameras, so we had to go to a studio to get that done, and I think it's one of 2 pictures of me before I moved to the States. And that's me last year visiting my old village, Hartikote, right outside of Bangalore. And I show you those pictures because they really illustrate my heritage and is the reason why I'm so really humbled and honored to be here today to speak in front of all of you, because it's really an exciting and a proud moment for me and my mom and my dad. They'll be very excited to hear about it. So enough about me and how excited I am to be here. I want to talk a little bit about a few things. I think you all know there's some dramatic and revolutionary changes happening in the consumer and media landscape. And what I'm going to talk about a little bit is how that's impacted Unilever and how we've addressed it. I could show a bunch of charts and graphs that show big numbers in mobile and social media. I think Brad did some of that already. But the reality is, all I really need to do is show this one chart, because this one slide shows that the internet is transforming almost everything it is that we do. From how we read, to how we write, to how we take pictures, to how we watch video, to how we listen to music, to how we go to encyclopedias. To some extent, it even impacts how we watch television. And it's not some Western phenomenon anymore, and it's not something just for teenagers, and it's not something just for leading edge types. It is global, and it is mainstream. And I think, as Brad said, the internet, I think we'll remember the internet as the defining invention of all of our lifetimes. And one of the benefits of being from here is that I have family that lives here, so I actually made a video kind of focus group of 1 from my cousin in Bangalore, who's just, a typical guy, 22 years old, living in Bangalore in the city. And I wanted to ask him what a day in his life was like so that I could show that and illustrate how this is truly a global phenomenon and that people are really spending time online all over the world. Can we click the video? This is my nephew, Darshan.
My hobbies are playing cricket, playing hockey, listening to music, watching TV, hang out with friends, chill out. I stay connected with my friends and family through Facebook. So if there's a cricket match, then the whole day I'll be watching TV. I have a cool Samsung mobile, which has a good music. It's very, very awesome. I use my mobile for making calls, messaging my friends, and then even networking. I have Facebook, everything here. Google Maps also, it's always attached to me, in fact. I basically use internet for my work-related issues and anything. I'm basically a cricket fan, so I just go to YouTube and say such and amazing videos. I'm a big fan of Sachin. So I usually go to YouTube and search for his videos. I love Tom Cruise and also Michael Jackson. I love his moonwalking.
So I think that really shows how his life is basically online all day. But the truth is that the depth and the far reach of the internet goes much further than that. He's a young man, but he lives in a big city in an emerging market. I think these slides really capture how far-reaching it is. Here you have a woman that lives in a small village in Africa. She doesn't have much furniture. She sells eggs for a living. Clearly, she doesn't have a lot of resources. But if you look closely, what she does have is a cell phone to handle her business. It's her address, it's everything. So the question is, if she has a cell phone, who won't in a very short time? So where does all that leave Unilever, and what are we doing about it? So the reality is we have, to some extent, been leading in this space. We were the first company to ever win a Grand Lion at Cannes for a non-television spot by launching a video we called Evolution in the mid-2000s for Dove. We launched it only on YouTube, and historically we probably would have run it on television or on some big event or even in cinema. but we ran it on YouTube. It exploded online, had millions and millions of viewers, and to this day is still generating new viewership. And that won the first ever Grand Line at Cannes in mid-2000s. That led us to do several other digital-based efforts with webisodes and consumer-generated content, and we became actually the Digital Advertiser of the Year for Advertising Age in 2007. That's a big deal for an FMCG company because we beat the likes of Nike and Nintendo, which typically are higher interest and can really yield to great digital content. And then last year, we were Cannes Advertiser of the Year. So we've been doing some things right, but we have a long way to go if we're really going to achieve our ambition to become the best marketing company in the world. In order to get there, we need to really rethink a few things, not just in marketing, but across the board because of the truly dramatic and rapid changes happening in the consumer and digital space. I think this story really illustrates in a great way the way we need to really reframe our thinking to be really successful. Historically, what happens every time there's a new media or the new technology or new channel, we basically translate the old methods and put it on the new methods. When television first launched, they were basically radio ads with some video. But this radio story, I think, really captures it. When radio first launched in the US in the 20s, it was this big, ugly brown box. It was very expensive, and all it did was run news all day. But people were already getting 3 newspapers a day. Nobody needed more news, and as a result, nobody was buying radios. There was a guy by the name of David Sarnoff, who was kind of a middle-level manager at RCA, which was the biggest radio manufacturer of its time, and he had a big idea. He decided that he wanted to run the heavyweight fight on the radio. And, lesson number 1, he was very imaginative. Lesson number 2, management said, nah, people want to see the blood, the guts, the tears. Nobody wants to listen to a fight on radio. But he said, no, I think it would be a big idea because very few people get to attend the event. It costs $10,000 a pop, whatever. Nobody's going to get to go. The mainstream won't get to go. This way, everybody can hear it. So lesson number 2, he persisted even though management kept saying, no, we don't want to do that. And then lesson number 3 is management said, fine. They finally relented, and they said, go ahead and do it. But you have to fund it. We're not going to fund it. You have to do it on your own budget, which is a big lesson because anytime you're trying to do new things and experiment, there's always kind of a hesitation to spend money on something that hasn't shown success in the past. So anyway, he did what he had to. He hired one broadcaster on a shoestring budget. They broadcast the fight, and it aired on radio. And a funny thing happened. People started gathering around the homes that had radios, and big parties were happening to listen to the radio. And that one single event actually changed the face of radio. Radio sales increased 3,000% over the next 20 days. Radio became the broadcast medium of its time until television some 30 years later. And David Sarnoff went on to become an incredibly big and famous personality, eventually becoming the CEO of NBC and General Electric. So it's a great story that really shows how reframing can change an entire medium, an entire business. And we are in that position now. Right now you're seeing a lot of banners and buttons and pre-rolls, and essentially all those are translations of print ads and out-of-home ads and television ads onto the web. Those are not the things in the long term that are going to have true impact. Somebody is going to create and imagine the way to reframe this channel in the way that Sarnoff did radio, and that's going to be the truly tipping point and change in this space that's going to drive enormous change. And we are all at a moment in time where any one of us can do that. So Axe recently did a nice job of reframing mobile. So, rather than running, banner ads on websites that are scrolling across the bottom of mobile phones, we had the insight that 80% of all guys 18 to 24 here in India use their mobile phone as their alarm clock. So we actually created a service that allowed guys to get woken up every day by an Axe Angel. So it's great on a number of fronts. In India, what we did, because the smartphone penetration isn't as high, is literally have the woman call on a recorded service that wakes the guy up every day. It's an Axe Angel. She's beautiful. Guys love it. It's contextually relevant right before they go into the shower. In Japan, we did it as an app that allows people to get woken up each day just through the app, and they can actually pick and choose the girl. They can pick and choose what she says. So there's a number of different ways that it can be used by this. The reason this is great is, again, they've reframed mobile. That takes a lot of imagination and creativity to create something like that, but it's based on a key insight. It understands the medium and how it's being used and creates communication that delivers upon that. The next thing we need to do is retrain ourselves. This is going to require new skills. and thoughts and thinking processes in order to really succeed in this space. And one of the things that we tell our employees is they really need to live this space themselves. Because you have a bunch of people who are kind of under 20 years old who were born into this space. They're digital natives, right? They don't need to learn anything. This is what they've been doing since the time they were babies. And then you have a bunch of people who are over 50 or in their late 50s who have teenage kids who are forced into kind of learning about this because they want to understand why their kids are on Facebook 6 hours a day and what they're doing on that, so they learn it. And then there's a whole slew of people in their late 20s, their 30s, their 40s, which make up the vast majority of the people that are in marketing around the world. This is kind of the lost generation of people in digital. So what we say is even if an agency was to come up with a really creative concept to use digital in a different way, we may not be able to even evaluate it if we don't even understand the functionality and the navigation of these different kinds of properties. So we say, go out there, get a social media profile, download some apps, get a smartphone, do the things that your consumers are doing so at the very least you understand how it comes together, and then you can either think of or evaluate a great campaign. And I typically give one of these digital IQ tests every quarter to people within the company just to get a sense of where we stand on very basic things that consumers are doing. So I'm going to give you all this quiz just right now and see how you do relative to our fellow employees at Unilever. I'll read it out. Just keep track in your head how many you get right. Okay, have you ever used an iPad? Do you regularly tweet? Have you ever downloaded an application? Do you use a bookmarking service like Delicious? Have you ever used Hulu or the iPlayer? There's no equivalent here in India, but basically that's a premium video service, so you could take it as have you ever uploaded a video to YouTube? Do you know what a Slingbox is? Do you have a social media profile? Have you ever used a peer-to-peer service, also called file sharing? Have you ever played on the Wii or Kinect? And do you know what Android is? How many people here get a 10 out of 10? Okay, actually not bad. We got a few. Usually I have like 0 or 1 person. How many people get over 7? That's great. Well, this is the perfect kind of crowd for that. But I think that's fantastic. That's what we need to do. We need to be really living this space regularly in order for us to understand and to be able to have the imagination to create something that will reframe what the digital space is. One of the things that we do to help our employees is we've built media labs at all our major markets around the world. And the reason we did that is because even if you want to live this space, there's some barriers at corporations. So we have firewalls that block certain sites. Not everybody buys several different devices in the same kind of field, such as mobile devices. You're not going to get an Android and an iPhone and a BlackBerry and so forth. So we've put all of those devices into a media lab. So all the gaming services, all the mobile applications, all the different operating systems, Samsung Series 9 high-def TV, the whole deal in a media lab, and we put it in every single market. So when you do get a presentation from an agency or you do create something for consumers, you have a place to go and see it happening in real time, live in action. So we've created these media labs, which I think has been great for us. And then one of the other, maybe the most impactful thing that we did was we took most of our senior leadership out to Silicon Valley last year. So all the EVPs of all of our categories, our CMO, our global president, myself, and the heads of all our key functions in marketing went to Silicon Valley. We met with Yahoo, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Twitter, a lot of smaller up-and-coming companies, and all the venture capitalists, the key venture capitalists, to understand what trends are happening and where the investments are going behind. This was great on a number of fronts because A, it got senior management completely engaged and allowed us to mandate some things that typically would have taken a lot more time to go through. But also it really gave us a sense of strategically where are these companies going. They know these consumers in the space better than anybody, and it helped us understand who to partner with, why we should partner with them, and the types of things we should be focusing on in the future. So this is a great trip, and I think had a lot of impact within Unilever.